Cool. What is good, people? Ben from Love of Tech. Hope you're all doing well. It's been a bit, so we are doing another ultimate camera comparison. This time it's between the S21 Ultra and the iPhone 12 Pro Max. Which one of these two flagships really does have the overall best camera experience for photo and video? And as per usual, if you've been here before, we're going to take it through daytime, low light, as many of the shooting modes as possible, and pretty much come to a conclusion and see which one gives you the best experience within that. But before we get into the camera test, let's get into the main specs breakdown of both these flagship phones.
Now, this is a quick specs breakdown for the main camera hardware and sensors for the iPhone 12 Pro Max and the S21 Ultra. In the description, there will be full details of the capabilities of the hardware, but this is just a quick breakdown. It's a quad rear camera system on the S21 Ultra versus a triple camera system on the iPhone 12 Pro Max. With the S21 Ultra, you've got 108 megapixel for the large main sensor. Then you've got a 10 megapixel times 10 periscope optical zoom, as well as a 10 megapixel times 3 optical zoom, and 12 megapixels for the ultra wide as well. And you've got laser assisted autofocus with it as well. And also the main camera sensor at the front when it comes to the selfie is 40 megapixels as well. With the iPhone, it's 12 megapixels all round for all three camera sensors. For the main, the zoom, as well as ultra wide. Then you've got a time of flight 3D LiDAR scanner as well. Then you've got the selfie at 12 megapixels as well. Full details in the description below. Let's get back onto the main camera comparison, back to the video.
So we are starting this one with the selfie cameras in 4K UHD 60 frames a second. As always, just testing out the image quality, dynamic range, and especially the stabilization. And we'll go for a little small run. Switch now to 4K UHD 30 frames a second. Pretty much gonna run through and just check how it performs. And a quick run. Switching over to 1080p 30 frames a second. Still a popular recording frame rate and resolution. All right, quick run. One thing you do have is fun shooting modes in video, like this video portrait mode on the S21 Ultra. Basically to kind of simulate a background depth of field or a shallow depth of field kind of look to give you that cinematic look. It's limited to 1080p, so just bear that in mind in terms of resolution. But I thought, let me just put this out there and see how it would look and what you all think as my audience in terms of the video portrait mode on the S21 Ultra. Interesting. Now we are at 4K UHD 30 frames a second on both the main cameras on the S21 Ultra and the iPhone 12 Pro Max. In this mode, you can switch between all the sensors and lenses in the rear camera. You do have the S21 Ultra that does have a trick up its sleeve where you can actually flip to the selfie while you're recording in this mode. So we'll test it out. Quick walk, then a quick run. Pause for a moment, switch to the ultra wide, switch to the ultra wide on both. Smooth transition. See how that looks. Quick run, the ultra wide. Main. 2.5x on the iPhone 12 Pro Max, and we're going to start with 3x on the S21 Ultra. Then a quick run. pause, and we're gonna go maximum optical zoom, and this is times 10. And a quick run. Come back to the main on both. And here's where the S21 Ultra has the ability to flip into the selfie while you're still recording in 4K UHD 30 frames a second. Cannot do that on iPhone 12 Pro Max. Adds a level of flexibility that I really do like on the S21. You can go back to the main, ultra wide, zoom, 10x, really flexible in that sense. We are now in 4K UHD 60 frames a second, but there is a caveat on both these cameras and how they switch in between all the sensors and lenses. You can actually record 4K UHD 60 frames a second on all the camera sensors and lenses, which is fantastic, especially on the S21 Ultra, which we didn't have before on the main ultra wide angle camera on the rear. But you cannot do it on the fly. You have to pause it, and then you'll be able to switch to the other lens. But there is some advantage that you get with the S21 Ultra, as in you can flip it to the selfie while you're recording. But let's look at the main camera sensors for now. Slow walk, and then a run. And then the advantage you have Ultra is you can again flip to the selfie camera. Would have loved to have been able to switch on the fly to all the other camera sensors, the ultra wide, the 3x zoom, and the 10x zoom, same as with the iPhone, but unfortunately you cannot. So we've had to pause it. We're still in 4K UHD 60 frames a second, but we've now gone onto the ultra wide angle sensor. So perfect example of this. If you're zooming in, that's actually cropping into the ultra wide angle sensor into 1x and 1.5x. It doesn't actually switch to the other focal lengths, the main and the 2.5x zoom. Just bear that in mind. And it's the same for the S21 Ultra, 0.6x, 1 times 2x. That's all being cropped on an ultra wide angle, so just bear that in mind. And then a quick run. Again, you still do have the advantage of switch into the selfie camera while you're recording in 4K UHD 60 frames a second. So nice advantage for the S21 Ultra, which you cannot do on the iPhone 12 Pro Max. But again, you cannot switch on the fly to the other camera sensors while you're in a particular focal length in 4K UHD 60 frames a second. So we've now actually switched into the super steady mode on the S21 Ultra. This only records in 1080p, either at 30 frames or 60 frames a second. And this is actually purely working with the ultra wide angle sensor or lens, and it's doing a crop with using very advanced electronic image stabilization, EIS, to give you super stable video. So doing a slow walk, what we're gonna do is an extreme run. This is an auto-focusing test of the iPhone 12 Pro Max using the S21 Ultra as the subject. Focusing nice and smooth. This is also an auto-focusing test of the S21 Ultra using the iPhone 12 Pro Max as the subject. Snapping and focusing nice and accurate and smooth. Now we're in 4K UHD 30 frames a second in low light on the 12 Pro Max as well as the S21 Ultra. Just seeing how the low light performance is like. Alright, we'll switch to the ultra wide and there will be definitely a performance drop as seen. So if you are doing night video, try and stick to the main camera. Back to the main sensor, And at night time, there's a high chance that it is just cropping into the center of the main camera. That's 2.5x on the iPhone, 3x on the Samsung. Let's see how 10x looks like. Back to the main sensor. And we're doing the low light selfie, 4K UHD 30 frames a second on both cameras. And just seeing how they perform in low light.
Now we are on to the photos for both daylight and low light. I will make sure that this will be an overall summary. The pictures will be cycling through, so I highly recommend that you pause it for each section so you can have a more detailed look for yourself. After the summary, I will allow the pictures to run through another cycle or two, just so you have the opportunity to see them side by side, pause it to make judgments for yourself. But I'm pretty much going to give my own 2 cents and my own kind of take-in on my experience with the pictures side by side, as well as back to the audio and the video. Now, when it comes to both the photos, looking at the selfies, both the selfies are great, but I do prefer the overall look on the iPhone when it comes to the image quality and just the overall look of it, the colors, the sharpness. I prefer that in terms of what you're seeing on the iPhone. In terms of the colors are both great and the dynamic range are great on both as well. Very consistent colors across all camera sensors when it comes to daylight pictures, which should be expected at this level and at this stage. Well, we're moving over onto more pictures on the daylight side. You can see that it's a clear win to the S21 Ultra when it comes to zoom. The capability of the zoom when it comes to clarity of the image and the sharpness, it makes sense. It's using optical zoom for ×3 and also ×10 and even beyond with the digital zoom. You're starting off so strong already. The image quality is much more flexible compared to the 2.5x that you will find on the iPhone, especially when it comes to daylight. So there's more flexibility there when it comes to it. The portrait mode are good on both, but I do like the overall look on a Samsung. And in terms of the update, it's great to see that the 3x zoom is being used, whereas previously when the S21 first came out, it was still punching in with the main camera sensor. So it's good to see that the 3x is being utilized here, and it's made such a difference to the overall portrait image in terms of the natural background blur and the compression, as well as the loss in quality being maintained well, and just an overall better look. What you are getting with the larger sensor on the S21 Ultra is a more natural blur, more natural shallow depth of field without needing portrait mode. And it's also another great option that you do have macro shots with the ultra wide that you can switch to, so you can get even closer for closer minimum focusing distance. You get less background blur, but you get a much sharper image and you can, you know, focus even closer, which is again the level of flexibility you have on the Samsung that you don't really have on the iPhone. But the iPhone is still great in terms of the consistency, great depth of field that it has as well, but you just can't focus as close. And low light. When we move over to the low light, you can definitely see that low light without night mode is also another clear win for the Samsung, and it makes sense in terms of the bigger sensor and probably also the image processing after. The iPhone is as consistent as it can be, but it just loses when it comes to low light. And when you go into night mode for the camera sensors, you can definitely see that night mode really cleans up for the iPhone well. So as many situations you're in that you can use the night mode without affecting the blurriness of the image in the iPhone, I would say use it as much as you can. It's the same for the Samsung as well. It takes the lead when it comes to night mode because it has a strong low light already, but those are pretty much the differences when it comes to the photos. Now for video and audio are very good on both, but I actually prefer the audio on the iPhone. It sounds more full, more clear. You can hear more of the surroundings without it being distracting and without losing out on the clarity. It feels a bit more full. So I like the audio quality, because way in the past iPhones were never good with the microphones and the audio, so it's great to see they've really improved it, and I actually prefer it. Both selfies when it comes to video are excellent, shooting up to 4K UHD 60 frames a second, but when you're doing that in a selfie mode for the iPhone, you do lose a bit of dynamic range. For the best dynamic range, definitely go into 30 frames or 24 frames. At 60 frames, the stabilization and carry is good, but you just lose a bit of dynamic range. But when it comes to the stabilization, overall both are solid all around. I really like the stabilization on all the camera sensors for both cameras with maximum resolution as well. When it comes to video mode, I would say there's more fun video mode options on the S21 Ultra, such as video portrait mode, although limited to 1080p, still very good. You've got 960 frames a second slow-mo, again caveat 720p, so watch out for the quality. Things like director's view, which I didn't really showcase. You've got 8K 24 frames a second, which I didn't showcase. And also things like being able to switch to the selfie while you're recording on the rear cameras in 4K 60 as well as 4K 30 and all the other camera modes. It makes it a very flexible camera and very fun to use across the board. Now, I would say the iPhone, in terms of video consistency, in terms of the image across all camera sensors, very good, and Apple really have been leading the pack when it comes to video consistency, quality and clarity. Audio's up there as well, but I think where Samsung have taken it onto the other side, where they probably can't match that level of consistency, is making the camera experience a bit more fun and more flexible. You know, so I would love to see Apple implement a bit more fun options when it comes to both photos and video. That is it. Those are just my quick take summary on both the pictures, video and audio quality for both these in the ultimate camera comparison. Let me know in the comment section below. Do you agree? What's your take? Are we on the same page, or do you have a different opinion when it comes to both these? That is it for me, Ben from Lover of Tech. If you enjoy camera comparisons like this, man, you know exactly what to do. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you're part of Team TLS, the Tech Lover Squad, so you don't miss any future videos on the channel. I hope you're all safe during this time. I will catch you in the next one. Peace.